Okay, welcome to demo day of the Holistic Health Hub. Today is going to be a bit of a story time, let's put it that way. A very geeky story time where we're going to deep dive into what's been going on the data design, architecture, security, legal requirements, and all those sort of thinking elements that are required for building the Holistic Health Hub in a way that's aligned with our values and our mission statement. Because what we've been showing you the last couple days and in the last couple weeks has been the visual design. We've shown you directory cards. We even had the directory live for a few days, out and in the public with cards visible. And then I started digging into what we were building and what I had been building with the AI, and I was finding more and more inconsistencies. And I figured at this moment, when we're still in the super quiet, you don't even know it's there kind of launch, is the right time to take a step back and really evaluate what have we built using AI. Because in many ways, AI is doing all the coding. I am not a code developer. I needed to be writing React and Next.js and to do all of the SQL for the database work. I am the architect. But let me check and see what has been going on with the AI that's been accelerating our ability to build this, because there's no way I could build this alone. I would need a whole team of developers. And what I want to share with you today is also what I've been learning about building with AI, because there's been a lot of things I have learned in the process that I have found surprising. So it's going to be a combination of all these things today. And I can't even show you the back end because it's empty and I'm in such a mess of throwing it. Like what's there's not even the reality because it's in the notes with the AI right now and I haven't pushed the changes because I'm still designing it. So all these words to say, I guess, does that make sense? Where do we start? And I guess I'll start from the beginning of building with AI. So the way that this is working is that I have basically been using Claude Code. So I started with Claude Chat. And we like Claude because it feels like it honors your security and data privacy better than OpenAI does, but it's still a very powerful tool. So we started with Claude Chat, where I was doing a lot of architecture decisions. But I felt like I kept getting stuck with this conversation would end, or I would have it so big that his brain would just explode. And I'd be like, make this artifact so that I can move it into this one, and make this artifact so I can move it over here. And then I had project folders where all of the conversations, and it could research each of the conversations that were in there, and that was working. And then I would make a series of artifact documents. So design security protocol, make an artifact that it can then reference in other conversations, design database schemas, put that there. If you don't know, a database schema is basically the design of your database. What tables do you need? How are they connected? What columns are you using? That's a schema. It's basically a database design. You can basically imagine it as a bunch of Excel tables connected to one another. So that's where we started. But I found that, especially when I started to move into the code space, that I got stuck very fast. So I moved into using Claude on desktop in a tool called Claude Code. Now I can just keep running conversations for days on end, and it'll compact those conversations and roll them over. But it keeps a pretty good context of what's going on. And this has been a big game changer. That and Claude Code can actually directly work with my files locally. So what I've done is I have all of the code on my computer. It is connected to a Git repository, which is just a way of recording. It's basically version control for code. But it can go in and I can say, I give you permission to edit this file. And it asks for permission all the time. Am I allowed to do this? Am I allowed to edit this? Am I allowed to make this directory? And every time you close the Claude window and you open a new one, you start fresh and it asks for permission again. So it says, hey, can I make a directory? Even though the last time I had it open, which could have been literally 30 seconds ago, it will ask again because now I've created a new session. And I could even be running multiple Claude codes looking in the same code database. But you don't want the two different robots to be working on the same piece of code at the same time because then it'll make a mess. Too many cooks in the kitchen. But this has been a very powerful process of being able to say, hey, we're working with this code, change this. So visual edits have been magical. So it's a whole other conversation talking about how we went from Lovable into design code. Let's just park that. We'll come back to that. That's called Pixie. We'll get there. We're going to talk about, let's assume we already have the code written and I'm looking at it and say I want to change the border radius. Well, I have a couple of options. I can open that file directly in a code editor and I can change the border radius. Or I could tell Claude, hey, change this radius on all the documents. And it will change the code directly. And then I can watch it live because it will also boot a local server and I can watch all of the changes live. And then because I'm running the version control software, I can then connect that version control software, push it public when I'm ready. And then that we can then push to the internet to be hosted. And that is exactly how we will be hosting the Holistic Health Hub. And so this is kind of the process that we've been using on working with it. But here's a couple of core things that I have discovered with working with the AI. So I have a strategy for handling images. It's very specific. It says all of the images have this kind of naming profile. It goes in this folder structure. It is connected this way and this way to the folders. Well, I have a document that says this is how you do it. It can reference that document at any time. I'm also building it in the directory all the time, and Claude is building it. Well, I built phase 1, which is the profile page. So cover images, profile page, story images. Stores it the way that it's supposed to. Now I move to the next phase where I add offers and offer images. It has all the access in the directory. I assume it knows what it's supposed to do because it already built it. It decided it was going to store a different way. Still secure, still good, just not the same architecture. Moving right along, we start to move to review profiles, and we have author images that go with that. Built, valid, good, completely different architecture. So now, as I'm starting to add more Catalyst data, as I'm adding more practitioners, as I'm playing with different reviews, things start breaking. And certain practitioners are working, certain ones are breaking, certain images are there, even though I uploaded everything the same way. And I couldn't figure out why. And that's where the audit, when I would check with Claude, hey, what's going on? It'd be like, oh, I found that this image doesn't have this ID. Or this image, like, oh, this review image is missing this ID. I'll fix it. Or this profile image, but it's not, unless you know to specifically ask to look for the entire architecture, it's not going to look for it. It doesn't have that kind of overview of oversight. Over and over again, you hear a lot in the working with AI world that if you're asking to do tasks, you need to think about an AI like a junior associate or an intern. Like you give them a task, but you really need to be checking in and you need to be giving them crystal clear descriptions. I actually watched a video once where it was talking about AI and it described it very well that AI agents really need hyper crisp and specific goals, and humans are terrible at giving that, which is a lot of the time. And another thing that I heard is that when the AI doesn't do what you tell it to do, that's a you problem. That's a skill set that you are missing as the requester, where you're not requesting and don't know how to request in those hyper specific goals that it needs to actually execute. You're like, make it look pretty. And it's like, what does make it look pretty look like? I'm just going to have fun. And because AI is not thinking, it is a prediction engine, it will give you the highest probability response for that. So if you say make it pretty, it's going to look like every website that's on the internet as the general population, because that's the greatest source of truth it has. It's also why when I told it to build a data secure, clean architecture for image storage, it gave me 3 different solutions because probably all 3 of those solutions are true. It's just when you run the probability engine and you spin the wheel, this time it came up with this solution, this time it came up with this solution, and this time it came up with this solution. And so these kind of little things that when you're building something as robust and multifaceted as the Holistic Health Hub is, these small things are going to build up and start to like eat away at your infrastructure. And we're at the point right now where we have the opportunity to take the time and look at that. So I am currently in the progress of doing an audit of everything that we've already designed in the architecture. What has been built? What columns exist? How is this connected? Are all the things connected? And I actually deleted all of the data out because when you build a table, every time you make a change, it copies all the data and deletes all the data. And when I learned this about database architecture, which someone in the comments might say, you're completely wrong, it does something like this, but this is what the magical AI bots told me, is that you have to delete all the data, then put it back all in. And when we start to scale and we start to move to hundreds and thousands of catalysts, which include practitioners, brands, destinations, and then each of these have offers and each of these have hundreds of images and, you know, and we start layering and layering, it's going to get complicated fast. So one of the core things that is in what I do and what I'm aiming for is how do we keep this as flexible and simple as possible while being robust enough to support the vision? And this is not only in the data aspects that we're looking at, where we're looking at how do we make sure that the different pieces are connected? How do we make sure that your data is honored? But also, how are we looking at security and audit files? Because this is a big part of what we're designing as well. One of the things I've talked about all the way along is your data as the catalyst is your data. We want you to be able to come in and trust us as the human array that you can come in, you can share your profile data, you can start hosting content with us, you can host your offers. But at some point, if you decide, hey, hanging out in the Holistic Health Hub is no longer supportive for me or my business or my life at this time, I want to step away. You know that you can delete everything. And not just delete everything, but you can take all of your stuff out. We will package it in a box and deliver it to you so that you can use it in the future. Not in some sort of proprietary software that you can't access, but in a way that you can then take it and you can open it and you can read it and you can utilize it. So you know you're not losing things to the abyss, but your knowledge is honored, whether it's because we're hosting it or because you have it again and you can use it in the future. This is so important. And it's one of the things that I'm designing into the database so that how can I make sure that anything that's created by you, whether it's an image or a review or an offer or your philosophy or details information, and who knows what we'll expand into, that you can remove that and it's yours. We're also looking at when we start to step into actually building and training our own AI models based on the human array data, that you are aware of your data privacy policies, that you get to decide if you want to be included in building the AI brain. And as I mentioned, when you build an AI brain, it's like a secret. Even if your knowledge is shared and you said it's yes today, if you want to remove it in 6 months, the brain knows, even if you remove the data. And that's something that's an important thing for you to be aware of when you decide that you want to share your information for building AI searchability. And when we say AI searchability within the Holistic Health Hub and in the human array, what we're saying is I want to make this very specific. So the vision here is that your knowledge is coming in to the Holistic Health Hub. We are holding and honoring that data. That data is stored on European servers. It is ours. It is proprietary. Like, we're building it and holding it, and we know where it is and how it's thin. And then when we want to start building up an AI tool that can then find the cross connections between the knowledge, they can start serving up and searching and start supporting you as the practitioner, but also the seeker looking for holistic health solutions and walking on your journey. We can do a lot of that already, and we're going to start doing that as humans. That's the beginning. That's the fiber that we're going to build from. But then how can we use AI to accelerate, to see the gaps and to build? This is what human-led AI or integrating AI and like that algorithmic thinking into what we do is so important. And right now, this is still a vision. It's still something that we don't even know exactly how it's all going to come together. But I already want to put in the infrastructure to support your security and that you get to know what's going on and you get to make the decisions on what's going on in your data from day one. And not only are we keeping that so that you get to hold your data, we're also looking at how is all that being tracked. So in all the regulations for AI and data security and GRDP and all these sort of things, audit logs for data are really important. So as we're building up the database, how are we designing those audit logs is also critical. So when were things approved? Who was it approved by? When was it deleted? When were things disabled? And that's at catalyst level, that's at offer level, that's at image level, that's at review level. You know, can you certify that you are licensed? Did you certify that you are licensed and you are insured to practice in this thing? You know, all of these things we are building into the back end from day one. So even if we only have 30 catalysts in there, we know, and you know, that we're making sure that who we're working with, we've approved, that they are properly certified, that your data is protected and you know exactly where it's going. It's not being sold on the back end. It's not being usurped for anything else, but it's something that we are honoring and we will continue to honor and try our best as technology evolves, as we begin to integrate. Like, we want to be the team who understands the forefront of the technology that allows you to connect and your business to thrive. So that's sort of the vision of what we're doing right now. And as I said, I am knee deep in auditing all of these elements. Like just today, I was like, if I have these audit logs, what happens about legal things? Like, where do I put my checkbox for I approve of AI? And where do I put my checkbox that I'm a certified practitioner? Or where do I put my checkbox that this offer does this? Or where do I put my checkbox that this person who gave a review is a real person and not a robot? And I was like, oh, wait, do I need a whole other legal infrastructure table that connects these pieces? And Claude was like, oh, yes, you do. And let me show you how to build it. So we built one of those this morning. And these are the things that, if you don't think about them from the beginning, all of a sudden you don't have complete logs. Like, you have missing data. And I'm sure, I can guarantee you from this day, I'm going to be missing something. And we are going to evolve and we are going to learn. Because you know what? We are humans and we make mistakes and we're learning and we're evolving. But the thing is, we're being open and honest and transparent about it. And we're taking you along for the journey. So that's where we are in database land. I hope you followed along. Like, there was a lot going on in there. I don't know if you have any questions. Anything's coming up.
I just want to say, like, what you just shared and like that core foundation of our value system that's building this is like the number one thing of importance to us, right? That we'll figure out everything else as long as we stay rooted to those values, and being clear and honest about those values is the core. That's it. And above and beyond that, we figure the rest out, and that's what we're here to do. So love it.
So I will wrap up today with talking about our AI agent we built in the middle called Pixie. What we were finding is we built this design in Lovable, and the design in Lovable it's beautiful and it's great. And I was able to download the code because you put it in there. You put it in the code thing. I could download the code locally. I opened up Claude. I was like, look at the code that's over there. You're a robot. You see code. Code makes pretty pictures. You don't need a picture because it kept saying, take screenshots and give it to me. And I was like, that feels stupid. You're a robot. Why would I take a screenshot of something that I have code for so that you could translate it into code so that you can make code? Why can't I just give you code? And it's like, huh, interesting. Yes, I guess I could look at the code. That would be useful. And I was like, yeah, of course it's useful. You're a robot. Like translating images back into code just feels like an extra step. Anyways, after I got through that, like, no, you don't need screenshots all the time moment. So we have the Lovable code, and I said, take the Lovable code and recreate it. And this I thought was going to be relatively straightforward. Claude code, take original code, rebuild clean. Use Tailwind 4 instead of Tailwind 3. Use everything in Next.js instead of this combination of Vue and other things that I don't even recognize half of it. Build it all in the same coding language. Go. It was a disaster. Total and epic disaster. I tried to fight it for days, and it was just a sinkhole of time and effort. And I was like, why? Why is this so complicated? It should be a code-to-code translation. Like, if bots can't do that, like, what are they doing anything else? So I thought about it. I chatted in Claude chat. I was thinking about it. And what it came up is we need a translation tool, something in the middle that says, hey, I see the Lovable code and I see what the Holistic Health Hub needs. Let me build detailed specifications. Remember how I told you that humans say things like, make it the same? And robots need hyper-specific details of what does the same look like? Well, we basically built an AI agent as a tool in the center that builds those hyper-specific specifications by looking at Lovable and looking at Claude code. And we call her Pixie. And it's actually so cool because there's all this code going on in the background, and it ends up becoming just a command line that's like, Pixie, export, page of this to page H3. And then it just like builds an export report. And an export report means this is a new page you haven't seen before, so I want you to describe it to me in detail. And then there's compare, Pixie compare, this page versus this page. So this means now I'm doing iterative changes and I want to know what's different between these two. And Pixie will create this massive report of 146 differences between this page and this page. Well, I gave this report to H3, and H3 is the Holistic Health Hub code. And H3 is like, I did all the changes, look. And I was like, nothing changed. It's like, but I did all the changes, look. And so I'd go back and I'd yell at Pixie. And I said, you did a terrible job of specking. And then it would do it. It said, I got it. I fixed it. I have this whole new metric for you, which I've discovered that you're deciding metrics on whether it's succeeding or failing is totally bogus. And I will probably delete it in a future version. But then I would give it to H3. And H3 would like, I did all the changes. And I was like, nothing changed. I even was doing the screenshot shenanigans and be like, do you see? Nothing changed. And it doesn't look anything like over there. I checked in with H3 to see what it was doing because I kept blaming Pixie. Bad Pixie. You did a bad job of specking. Bad Pixie. H3. H3, the punk, robot punk, was like, I saw all 146. I decided 4 were relevant, and they're the only 4 I did. And I was, what? I gave you a spec. I said, do all the things. And yes, they were in priority order from like severity to minimal, but I said, I did 4. And I was like, but you do all of them. And then it was doing all of them, and it was still really struggling. So then I moved to the next phase of building Pixie, where I was like, okay, H3, you've seen enough of the Lovable code, and you see what Pixie's giving me. I want you to now look at both the Lovable code and the Pixie report at the same time and make changes. And I'm going to tell you specifically like what changes I want made, what you're missing. I want you to check the Lovable code to find it specifically. And then I want you to write a report of what Pixie's not telling you what you do need. Because what I'm finding is we define some arbitrary way to give specifications to our H3 code. But apparently our H3 code needs it in a different way than it's coming through for it to be able to do it. So now I'm having this like iteration loop where I'm looking at the Lovable code, which is the original design code. I'm looking at the compare file specifications that Pixie's outputting, and H3 is writing and making notes on, I made this correction and I made this correction in this way. And this is what, if Pixie were to tell me, I need to do. And it's right now, I haven't gone back because I work at multiple things simultaneously. So I am currently doing the database audit, building the front end, and updating Pixie at the same time. So right now, where Pixie is at is that I am working with H3 and the Lovable code and Pixie and building this iteration of what does Pixie really need to tell us in order for this to change. And this is an ongoing process. And as I continue to do more changes and we do more updates to the H3 in terms of design, we will continue to mature Pixie. But this literally feels like a whole other art form. This feels like a whole other art form that we're building in the middle. And I thought, okay, I've learned how to do this. Let me try again. So I'm rebuilding my own personal website right now. And I built it in Lovable and I opened Claude Code and I was like, oh, I know what I'm saying. It's not looking in H3 repository. It's not using Pixie. It's completely different code sets. But I was like, I know how to give the commands now because I, as Evelyn, have learned how to give better commands to Claude. So I could totally do this. Total epic fail. Total garbage came out the other end again. And I was like, okay, this is verification to me that Pixie really is doing something in the middle. Because when I was getting to the point where I was looking with H3, look at Lovable, make changes, H3, look at Lovable, make changes, H3, look at Lovable, make changes, I was like, maybe I don't need Pixie. Maybe I overcomplicated it in the middle. But so when I did this trial with a fresh website with only one page on it, and it came up nothing, I was like, we're building something that's really useful here. And it's fun that as we're building this, we're also learning how to develop with AI and the new technology, how to make it support us and accelerate our learning. So not only are we building H3, we're also building AI agents in the middle, which currently we call Pixie.
Just a little side hustle in the middle of all the magic. But it is magic. And I love that her name is Pixie. Or it's her. I'm going to say it's a her.
Feels like a her. I mean, Pixie feels very her-like.
Yeah. Yes.
Because it's pixel perfect design. It's magic. I mean, little things that I'm looking at, for example, like, hey, Pixie, our designer is in Lovable doing changes and doing really small magical changes that maybe are animations or module pop-ups that you won't see in a screen-to-screen comparison. So I'm having conversations like, look at the logs of the code changes in Lovable and see what are the things that the designer is really zoomed in and has worked on a lot. And then find the last version of that, dig in and make sure that you have brought that code over. I actually call it look for the magic because our designer does magical things, which I will probably miss and will underestimate. But it's in the code. She spent a lot of time on it. And if I look at where she has put her effort, our designer, then I can use that to guide the AI to make sure that we don't miss the important things, even if they're little bits of magic. But those little details are sometimes the things that really set apart a design. So
when you say that, it makes me think about one, our values, and two, how we operate as a team, that we really lean into each other's gifts, right? And so it's like, this is just another example of like, that's her gift. I'm not here to do her job or to like change her gift, right? I just take her gift and her magic and apply it with my magic. And that's how we create holistic magic.
Exactly. And that is story time for today.
I love this story. I can't wait to hear more.